Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Love Language Kitchen by The Relationship Chef. That's me. Today, I am here with my new friend, Martin, and he wishes he was a prosciutto. So we're going to have to talk to him about that a little bit. Just let me change my glasses.
Sure.
So, Martin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My
And
pleasure.
subjecting yourself to whatever it is we're going to subject you to. So,
Okay,
Martin,
I'm ready.
I would love you to tell me, and well, you've told me, I want you to tell everybody else why you wish you
Sure.
were a prosciutto.
Oh yeah, now that's the name of my podcast. Somewhat whimsical title. Years ago, I mean, a couple decades ago, I was watching a food show with Mario Batali, but not a cooking show. And the conceit of this show was he would tour around Italy with a friend of his, and they'd visit different towns, and they would learn about the local food. They did an episode in Parma, and we learned how prosciutto di Parma is made. And we went to this one particular manufacturer, a famous one that makes a very high end prosciutto di Parma, and they're showing the haunches of the pigs that become the prosciutto. They had a special place for them, these hanging rooms, and they called them apartments. And these apartments were designed to hang the meats. I mean, dozens, hundreds of them. But also there were windows open, or these slats, so they could catch what they called the Ligurian breezes blowing through them to help cure the meat. And I thought, oh, I'd like an apartment in Parma, and enjoy the temperate air and the delicate breezes blowing over me. And then, beyond that, I was reading up on prosciutto, and there's different styles and different proprietary approaches to it. And, one is more interesting and niche than the next, very strange. And I was reading one in oh God, near the Switzerland border in the town Saint Remy Dumbussus, maybe, but it's nearby where the dogs, the Saint Bernard dogs, are bred. There's this old abbey. They cure in their process of making prosciutto. They hang these haunches, and the pigs are fed a special diet. And then they said they get, over the year or so that they're curing, they get seasoned with oils and salts and herbs and massaged daily. And I thought, massage daily, these exotic oils. I'm like, hey, I wish I were a prosciutto, and that's where the idea came, the notion came from. And for the podcast, it's just that Italian food is made with a lot of craft, a lot of care, almost fanatically so. But the end product is really something, and this is done on a grand scale with big fancy prosciutto companies and winemakers and cheesemakers, but it's also done in the homes of many nonas and parents and now third generation cooks like myself, who really take the time to either acquire these ingredients or make them yourself. And that's sort of what we talk about on the podcast.
I love that. And, I, as you know, spend a lot of time in France, more time in France than Italy normally, because just because I've been going there for longer.
Yeah.
But, and France obviously has such a love for food as well.
Yes,
And
yes.
this passion for food, but I'm not sure the French take it as, I don't want to say, they don't take it as whimsically. Like, there aren't these little stories about putting, goat cheese and curing it in a nice apartment with an ocean breeze.
Yeah.
There's all this lore, I guess, behind the Italian food that I have not yet found, and I'm fairly familiar with French food. I have not yet found with French food, but with Italians, there's always a story behind it. There's always something
Yeah.
special.
Yeah.
Somebody 25 generations ago did, and it's continued on. So I really think that's amazing. And the prosciutto story that you told me is no different from that, right? That just brings it all into
Yeah.
it.
It
So,
certainly epitomizes it for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I love the stories. The stories are what we're looking for. Those stories behind whatever the dish is and whatever the fetish is or whatever. There's more often than not a very good story behind it. And so that's what we talk about.
Definitely, definitely. All right, so let's get into cooking, and hopefully I can impart a few skills to you today. You said you wanted to work on knife work a little bit.
Yeah.
And where did I put my onion? I lost an onion. I had an onion, I've lost it. Um, it's over there. Just one sec. Um,
Okay. I've
so
got
we
mine.
have, I got mine. So
Yeah.
I'll talk to you a little bit about that. And
Okay.
thing is, I don't know what your skill level is. Please, I apologize if it's a little too
No, no,
basic
no.
for you, but I think every little bit helps. And you know,
No.
even when somebody told me once that when you learn something, like if you're watching a class or a video or something, and you watch it over and over and over again, every time you'll take a little bit more in a different
Yeah,
way. So hopefully that's the situation
absolutely.
we will be in when I'm teaching you some things today. So we've got our onion, our knife, and our
Hmm.
cutting board. And very, very important is to have something under your cutting board. And
Ah,
I will either use paper towel, like a few layers of paper towel or a dishcloth, but it should be damp. And the
okay.
reason for this is because when you apply pressure to the cutting board, it's not going to move under your fingers and you chop your fingers
Mm.
off. I prefer not to ever do that, although I have cut myself so many times. But when you put a little something under your cutting board, like a cloth or some paper towel, then it doesn't slide while you're trying to cut. And that just makes it a whole lot easier. Um,
Good tip, which I will employ now
yeah.
going forward.
Now at my house, we renovated our kitchen sort of during COVID, perfect time because there were no supplies available. Um, but we put a butcher block on our island, we put a butcher block countertop in, and we had so
Mm.
many people said to us, well, you're not actually going to cut on that, are you? And it's like, yes, we are. That's exactly what it's for. My mom
Yeah,
had
yeah,
one in the 70s. Every kitchen I've been in has one. And it's great because it's just there. And people are like, oh, but it's going to get marked. And, my cutting board's a mess, but it's a kitchen. It's a living, breathing thing because we create
yes.
things. And if your kitchen counter doesn't look perfect, it's okay because it's
Yeah.
it's from the process. So, anyways,
No, I
okay.
agree. I mean, it's good to look nice and fashionable and stylish and clean and clean. Yeah, all that. But again, as you said, it's a function place. It's a laboratory. It's live. I like that metaphor. It's a living thing. If you're cooking, there's going to be scratches. It's not going to look perfect, nor should it. That's a good sign of an excellent kitchen.
That's what I think too. And when we put our tile behind the stove, we didn't put white grout in because I knew it would never stay white.
Mm,
We put
mm,
a dark gray grout in so that
mm.
when I splash my tomato sauce when it's simmering, it's all fine, right? So,
No
okay,
problem.
so we have an onion. We're going to start with the onion.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so you can peel it before you cut it, or you can peel it after you cut it. Normally, what I'll do is I will cut it in half,
Okay.
and
And
then
I'm watching you. You want me to copy you or just observe at this juncture?
it's up to you. I mean, I think
Okay.
if you copy me, it's easier because you're sort of doing
Yeah.
it while I'm
Okay.
showing you.
Okay.
It's
Good.
almost
All right,
one
I'm
hands
cutting my.
on.
Okay.
So cut it in half, and then you
Yep.
see there's the root end of it, and then there's the
Yes.
growing end of it. I just cut a little off the top, the growing part.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is because if you leave the root end part intact, it keeps it together as you're cutting it.
Ah. Now, right away, you can have a laugh at my expense. I cut it in half, but not lengthwise. So there we go. But so I already learned something.
I'm sorry, I should have told you that part.
No, I see it now, but I didn't see what. That's okay though. But now I know. Now I know. I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got another one. You got a red onion here. We'll do this one.
Perfect.
I'm going to use these. It's not like the onions are going to go to waste. So.
Did you see the movie Julia and Julia?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Remember, Julia Child practiced on mountains of onions
Yes.
when she was
That's,
getting it right. So I've cut it in half this way with the root on the bottom and the growing top.
yep.
I cut a bit of the growing top off. and then
Okay.
I peel the skin off. Now, an interesting thing they taught me at school was they said you can be super careful to peel off only the dry outer skin so that you
Mm-hmm.
don't waste any of the onion. But they said you also have to take into account how much time you're going to waste if you do that, and
Yeah.
it takes a lot longer. So don't be afraid to take the first sort of layer of onion off in order to make it easier for
Well,
you to get the skin off.
I like that efficiency. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if you're doing stuff in bulk too, right? It really won't matter.
exactly, right? Okay,
Okay.
so I'm going to show you 2 ways to skin a cat here. So we have, by the way, if you don't do this, this is always a good little tip, is it's great to have a garbage bowl.
There we go. My dump bucket. Good tip. Very
Yeah.
good. I learned that not too long ago from Rachel Ray, actually. She,
Yeah.
on one of her shows. Great tip.
I'd love to have a garbage bowl. So, okay, you've got your onions ready to slice.
I do.
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
What is the very best part of your relationship with your wife?
The onion slicing. No, no.
I love
You
it.
know, we slice onions like no one's. You know, Barb and I. That's my wife Barbara. Um, from the time that we met, you know, both of us were exceedingly responsible and mature people, you know, for our ages. We met in our, you know, early 20s, and you know that hasn't changed. And at the same time, we're pretty silly and whimsical too, almost like, you know, time and a place for everything. You know, so
Yeah.
when we need to get the job done, whatever that may be, you know, you can rely on either one of us. But then, you know, there's a time to be completely frivolous, silly, whimsical, whatever, you know, joyful, whatever you want to call it. We have that capacity as well. So we, you know, so it's not all just, oh, we're uptight, miserable people, or what, you know, we've got that nice blend, and I think that's I think part of what attracted us to each other. You know, that there was this always this seriousness of purpose in everything we did and how we treated each other in the relationship, but at the same time, it did not prohibit absolute silliness and whimsy as well. So I like that a lot, and that was I think very helpful in parenting too.
Oh, I think definitely when you, and the better relationship you have, the better parent you are. And a lot of people think, well, you know, put our relationship on hold because we're going to focus on the kids. But really, you need to have that strong bond and that really great relationship with
Mhm.
happiness and laughter, but seriousness to get the job done, like you said. You have to
Yeah.
have that strong relationship to be a better parent, because then you're always a united front. And the most important thing that you're teaching your kids at this point is look what a great relationship looks like, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. You have to be like they watch everything you do, and you can
They do.
talk a good game, but they're looking at how you behave. They're watching it. They're watching and absorbing what you do, and you know you want to what you model, good, bad, or otherwise, is what they're going to absorb. But also, you want to give them a sense of stability and security, you know,
Yeah,
as much as you can. And I think that good relationship does that. And that's not to say that, you know, we don't have our moments, but at the end of the day, you know, when you care about each other and they see that you care about each other, that's sort of what they absorb. That's the take home, I think.
absolutely. So, okay, let's cut some onion. So,
Okay.
um, remember we've got the root end and
Mm-hmm.
the bud end, right? So we're going to put
Mm-hmm.
the, are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Phew. I had a chef in Paris who was left-handed. He was trying to teach us how to make these cornets. None of us could do it
Oh,
until we realized he was
oh
left-handed.
gosh. Yeah.
So you want
J'arrive
the,
gauche.
oh, right? It was so funny. He was just this little funny guy. Once we realized, we said, Chef, you're left-handed. And he whipped off and did it in his right hand, no problem at all. So it was funny. Okay, so put the root end of your onion towards your left
Okay.
hand.
Okay. Got it.
and you're going to hold the onion, pick up the knife, and you're just going to make slices in the onion that go all the way to the cutting board, but you're not cutting right through the onion. So see, I'm going to cut only till about this spot so that it keeps the onion, holds it intact.
To the root. Okay. Now, let
Yeah,
me ask you
but
something. It looks like you're doing it parallel, and I want to do this sort of like perpendicular to the root. Am I?
you're doing,
Is,
no,
is
you're doing it. Here's the root,
okay?
right? And
Yeah.
you can see the roots facing you, and I'm cutting it, but I'm not, are you able to see the knife doesn't go
Okay.
all
Yeah.
the way?
No, I see. I understand it better now this way. Okay. You cut
Yeah.
to the root, but not through it. Okay. Okay.
Right, you're not cutting a slice, you're just cutting it so it's gonna be a little fanned. So you don't wanna
Okay.
cut a slice off. If you cut a slice off, it's not the end of the world, but this just makes it very easy. You'll see in a sec. So
Okay.
you're cutting as far as you can into the onion without cutting to the root and making it a slice.
Okay.
So you can do that the whole way across. And usually there's a line. You can see a line you're gonna cut
Yeah.
to that line, right? Because this
Mother
keeps it
Nature
together.
helping out.
You need my help?
Nah.
Okay.
Okay.
So you've got this nice little onion. Don't pick it up like I am. I'm just showing you. So you've
Oh
got
yeah.
it
Yeah.
sort of sliced, right? But it's still one piece. And then you're going to cut parallel to the root.
Okay.
And turn your fingers in if you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with this? You turn them in
Yes.
so that your
Mm-hmm.
knife slides
Yep.
along your knuckles and not
Okay.
into your fingers, right?
Wouldn't it be awesome if I cut myself really severely on the show?
But you have a doctor
Sure.
close by, so it's
That's true.
absolutely okay. I don't
Well,
encourage
she'll
it,
sew
but
me
it's
up.
okay.
All right.
Right?
So
Just a
cut
flesh
through.
wound. Okay,
It's just a
so
flash. Very nice
so-
reference.
right?
I'm-
Oh, so we're going to cut parallel,
Okay.
and we're going to cut right through the onion, and you're going to have
Okay.
beautiful little diced onions here.
Oh, I see. That's how you get the nice dice. All right. So this is interesting. So cutting. One thing I'm going to do different next time, I'm going to slice deeper going in
Right.
that first cut.
Yeah, you want to
Because my
go
top
right to the
layers,
cutting.
yeah.
Yeah, you're going
But yeah,
right to the
top
cutting
layers,
board, but
nice and diced.
there you go. See?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have this last little bit with the root on it,
Mm-hmm.
all I normally do is I just give a couple little chops like that and then turn them. And you're just doing that with such a small amount that it's very easy.
I see.
I'm just going to flip this around for a sec so I can see what you're doing. And this is.
Well, I can tell you, the outer layers came out great, and then deeper, I didn't cut deep enough. But that's easily fixed. That's
Right,
easily
so-
fixed.
Matter. Okay.
I don't know how fine the camera is reporting, but you can see there's some nice chunks, but then there's some slices. The slices are from the inner part. The chunks are from the outer part,
Right.
where I slice deep enough. Smells good.
Smells like onion.
It does.
Funny the way that works, huh?
I want to take we'll take a swipe at the other half.
Oh, don't take a swipe at the other half yet, because I'm going to show you something different with that half.
Okay. It's cutting deeper now.
Or I guess you can use a second onion too, but
Oh yeah, went right through. This will be different. Good one.
And then you really get a nice dice when you do it like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, but I should save it. You're going to show me something different, or should I do the crosswise now too?
Um, I'm going to show you something different, but if you, this
Okay.
one's not that big of a deal if you don't have another half an
No.
onion,
Okay.
matching half.
Okay.
So that's a dice, right? That makes a really
Mhm.
nice diced onion. The
Yeah.
size is good. It's perfect for a sauce or a stock or anything like
Yeah.
that. One thing I will tell you is that when you're doing something like, let's say you're doing a clear broth with onions in it, and you're going to present your broth to somebody, you want to make sure that you have a small dice that's fine and quite uniform. If you're doing a stock that you're going to be straining out and discarding the vegetables, doesn't matter what it looks like. You can chop it,
Okay.
throw it, chunk it, whatever, right? So just remember that if if it's going to be presented on a dish, you want it to be fairly consistent and neat. So
Okay.
before we cut the other half, I want to ask you a question, and that is,
Sure.
we sort of talked about it. What is one way or one thing that you would like to see improve in your relationship?
Well, in when either one of us are presented with something that's frustrating, let's say, something at work or whatever, and we're annoyed by it, I have a knee-jerk reaction to want to help solve the problem. And I think sometimes, well, that's good. The intention is good. And maybe every now and then, maybe even the advice is good. But just as often as not, that's not what really Barb is looking for. She's not looking for me
Right.
to problem solve. She's looking for someone to just listen and lean on a little bit without offering the solution. Even if it's a good solution, it's almost
Right.
immaterial. And I don't I don't necessarily see that right away, or worse, maybe I don't see it at all in the moment, and it's frustrating for her. And ironically, that shoe can be on the other foot too, for me and her. And so it would probably be good for both of us if we could just back off a little and just listen and not even try to problem solve. And if advice is needed, or if it's wanted, that will come up in conversation. But maybe the first reaction is just to listen. But that's not my first impulse
Right.
at all, or maybe my
So,
fourth impulse.
so let me offer you a different perspective on this, Martin.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that is that if somebody's frustrated, whether it's Barbara or it's you or whoever, and
Yeah.
something's gone wrong, or even somebody's cut you off in traffic or something, right? And the sort of anger and frustration boils up.
Yeah.
Those are feelings that are meant to be felt. So by
Mhm.
squishing down the feelings, you don't deal with them. So allow her to feel her feelings, and like you
Mhm.
said, be there to support, but don't try and talk her out of her feelings. Let
Mhm.
those feelings work through. And, a lot of the times, correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
it's either short-lived, or she knows the solution or you know the solution, and you just need to vent that little bit. And that's those feelings needing to be felt, right? And so when you
Mhm.
allow yourself to feel the feelings and not always think, okay, it's bad to be angry or it's bad to be frustrated.
Right.
It's okay to be angry, it's okay to be frustrated. Feel those feelings, process them, and then move on to the next phase. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you think about it, when she's feeling frustrated or angry, the best thing to say is, I understand that. I see how that can make you very frustrated. And you don't have to say anything more than that. And then
Mhm.
once those feelings have been felt, and they've she sort of processed them a little bit, then you can say, how can I help? Or
Mhm.
obviously you want to help. Do you want to talk about some different ways that we can manage it, or I
Yeah.
can help you through it? But unless she asks you to step in and give her advice, hold back a little bit and let her process her emotions before you
Hmm.
jump in. And she knows, and you know when she does it to you, and Billy hopefully knows it when I do it with him. We know that our partners do it out of kindness and out of love and out of wanting to sort of protect us, right? By talking us out of the
Yeah. Yeah.
feelings. But allowing us to feel the feelings is sort of a better and healthier way to do it, because then we can say, oh, okay, fine, it's done. Let's move on to the next thing, or let's talk about
Yeah.
the other options that are available, right? So
Sure.
it's essentially not coaching them out of the way they feel, it's allowing them to feel that, and then
Yeah.
talking, you know, talking about it once
And
it's go ahead,
you
sorry.
moved on. No, it's good advice. I'm laughing, at myself because it makes so much sense when you're not in the moment, but when you're in that moment, what happens to me is, and you'll appreciate this, I think, given what you do, is that the anxiety in me is kicking in to like must resolve this, and so the first reaction is the one based on an exaggerated anxiety for the moment. So if I could take that moment, take that breath, force myself to ask the question that you said, or not say how can I help, but just listen, not ask the question,
Yeah,
just be there to listen. And but forcing myself to do that, that gives me a chance, I think, to let maybe my anxiety just abate enough so that I can be an ear and not adding to the feelings of the moment,
right. And seeing the
Uh,
good in it and realizing that feeling feelings, they're meant to be felt. It's okay to feel those.
yeah,
The world's not going to
yes.
come to an end. She's not going to explode if she feels her
Hmm.
feelings, and allow that process to work through, and then
Yeah,
take it from there after it's felt. So try doing that. Sometimes if it's all, I always used to say with my kids, it's all how you spin it, right? So if in your head
yeah,
you
yeah.
say it's okay for her to feel those feelings, just like you never
Hmm.
want to stop her from being happy, right?
Right.
Let her feel the feelings, and then say, okay, I understand, I'm here for you. And then when she's sort of vented or whatever, then it's like, okay, now where can we go from, where do you want to go from here, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, okay,
Like it.
so we have an onion, the
We
other
do.
half of the onion, the root. We could cut the
Hmm.
root off if we wanted to at this point.
Okay.
The reason I've left it like this is because I just want to show you, and this is entirely a personal preference. I'm not the only one who has this preference. Cut the end of the onion off. But if you're making sliced onions,
Hmm.
if you need the whole ring for whatever reason, then that's fine. But if you're just slicing onions, when you slice them like this, from the
Hmm.
root end to the sprout end,
Hmm.
and cut them like that, you get, you can see sort of a different shape. And I think it just makes a nicer shaped onion for when you're slicing.
Mm.
And the best part is you slice through a couple layers till you're about halfway through your half, and then you flip it over.
Hmm.
You flip it over, and then you're starting from fresh from another side.
On the other side. Okay.
And that's, I just find that makes a nicer shape
Yeah.
of your sliced onion.
Yes. It's a lovely, lovely slice. Uniform, more or less. Okay.
All right, so we are all oniony now. You can use that for all sorts of wonderful things. So
Hmm.
the next thing I'm going to do, and this is this may be again oversimplistic for you because I'm not exactly sure. I know you cook a lot, so I feel like most of this is overly simplistic for you. But just since I have you here and we're
I'll tell
talking
you,
about it.
with knife, I use a knife, but I use it crudely. But you gave me a couple things, very specific things to do that is gonna refine how I use the knife. Over time, it's gonna make a big difference. Not at all.
So I'm just going to show you, this is more the holding positioning of the knife that I'm going to show you now. So I'm just going to cut up a
Okay.
garlic clove just for the sake. We have onions, we may as well cut up some garlic, right?
Okay.
So I took the garlic clove, I squished it
Mhm.
under the blade, which
Mhm.
loosens the skin from it, then you can pull the skin off. And then I'm going to slice it. When you're slicing a knife or slicing whatever it is on the cutting board, you want to have a knife with a rounded blade like this. I don't know how Japanese chefs do it with a cleaver, because I could never do it with a cleaver. But you want to have a rounded blade. And when you're cutting, it's almost like the tip of the knife does not leave the cutting board.
Mm.
So you're going through and it's like a rocking motion.
Ah,
I mean, the tip comes up at the end, but the knife never entirely leaves the cutting board.
okay.
So it's really, when you're slicing it, the knife never entirely leaves the cutting board. There's part of the knife is on the cutting board at all times. And it's really just like a rocking motion. Like, you're not going like that, you're rocking back and forth. So forward and
Yeah, I
backwards,
like that.
forward and backwards, right? And so, when you're doing the garlic, you're going to sweep it back into the middle to cut it as fine as you want, or as thick as you want. I find that garlic never really disappears in a sauce the way onions do, so I like it fairly
Yeah.
fine. And then when you get to the point where you've got this little pile, you can gently, and this is important because I have slipped off the end and cut the end of my finger, gently put 2 fingers on the end of the knife to hold it down. And then you're just going to go like that and move it along.
Okay. And you say sort of towards the ending of the cutting period. That's when that 2 fingers comes
Right.
most of you.
When you've got the majority of the pieces cut up and you're just making it into very fine, small bits,
Mhm.
then you're just that's when you put the end of your knife. So I always start off with slicing it like that. And then once I've got it started to chop up, I put my 2 fingers on the end of the knife. And then I just move it back and forth. And I'm going to show you
Yeah.
how I'll do that with some basil in a second as well.
Okay. Oh, this is wonderful. I love the chop of my onions right now. This is a good technique.
I'm glad. Okay, so I got some basil. I went to the grocery store because I wanted to have herbs to cut up with you. And I had a
Mhm.
lot of opportunity, a lot of options, but you know what? I'm in Italy. We use the basil.
Going for the basil. Okay.
So I
Who's going to
got,
argue with that? No one's going to argue with it.
I'll be honest with you, I would have gotten parsley, but the parsley was €3.75 for a bunch that was, like this, which is great, except I'm never going to use it.
All that.
So
And are you in the Genoa area? Am I remembering correctly?
I went to Genoa last week for a little overnight trip by myself.
Okay, all right, that's what it is. Because I'm thinking you got the basil. I'm thinking pasta and onion, pasta genovese coming to your house sometime soon with
So
the basil.
it is. I actually got a really nice bottle.
Mm,
And I
nice.
got this. Check this out at the market. This is a crema al parmigiano reggiano e tartufo bianco,
Oh, yum.
right? So
Okay.
if you ever go to Genoa, you have to let me know, because there's a restaurant you have to go to that was super cool, very, very
Right.
inexpensive, and apparently the World Pesto Award winner. It was amazing. Okay,
Okay.
so I've got me some basil here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to
Hmm.
show you 2 things to do with basil, or any herb, but basil is one that specifically we do. The first one is a chiffonade,
Mm.
which is basically julienne strips. So to make a chiffonade of basil, you put the leaves together in a nice little stack. You don't want the stems, just the leaves. And you're going to roll them up like you would a, pair of socks, or socks, probably not a good example, but anyways, you're going to roll them up.
I'm thinking cigarette.
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 I was thinking something slightly less legal, which
Yes,
don't
yes.
ask me why. Although I'm Canadian, so it is legal. So maybe that's what it was.
Right. There we go.
So you roll it up and you have this little bundle of leaves, put it on the cutting board. And again, we're going to keep the knife on the cutting board, and you're just going to cut it in that sweeping motion. And this is really a wonderful way if you're having a salad, like my very favorite burrata salad or something like that. And you see, you get these lovely little fine strips of basil.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A chiffonade. So that's a really nice way, by putting them in the little bundle, rolling them up and slicing them. And then
how many did you roll up? 2 or 3?
3. I mean, you can roll a bunch up. I just, for illustrative purposes, I only did 3.
Okay.
But yeah, you can do as many as you want, as many as you can make. And really, in some ways, the bigger the bundle, the easier it is, because you've got something more meaty to hold on to and cut through. So if you want it really fine, it's almost easier if you use a smaller bundle. And when you watch me and I'm doing the rocking with the knife on the board, I can do it quick, and I've done it a lot. You will very rapidly increase speed if you start cutting it like this. And as long as you keep your fingers turned in, you're hopefully not going to need Barbara to do triage while you're cooking. So,
it's like playing a musical instrument. When you're learning a difficult passage, you go very slow. And then if you're disciplined to do it slow, in time, the speed comes automatically. Exactly. As opposed to if you start off at the speed and it's a train wreck, and then you need, the musical equivalent of my wife to come in and do the triage to sing the music. But
so, okay. So, and once you've got it sliced up like this, it's the same thing as with the garlic. At this point, then you can chop it. If you have a mandolin. No, wait, not a mandolin. A mezzaluna is a great way to do this.
Okay.
And it's funny, Billy, my boyfriend, bought me a mezzaluna for Christmas a couple of years ago. And God love the little lamb, he didn't entirely know what I wanted it for. And he bought me one that's this big with a handle on it. Okay. Which is not what I wanted. I wanted a bigger one with a handle on each side. So you're going like this.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do. But if not, if you're just using a knife, it's the same thing. You put your hand on one end of the blade. You want to have a sharp knife, or else it's just going to mash the leaves. But you can just chop it. And, if you've got a good knife, you can make your basil super fine. So once you have this, and this is a really good tip to know as well from Italian restaurants, etc., is when you chop up all your basil, put it in a container, like in a Tupperware container or a bowl or a coffee mug or whatever. Put the chopped basil in there and put olive oil in it, but just enough so that it's wet. Like, you want to stir it up so that it's completely combined, but you just barely want to put enough olive oil to keep it combined. You can keep it in the fridge or the freezer like that for a month. And
really, uncovered or covered?
Well, you cover it up. Otherwise, it's going to absorb all the flavors. But it will keep the basil very nice and green, and it'll keep the flavor. So when you have the fresh basil, chop it all up, put it in some olive oil. And then when you're cooking, when you're making some wonderful pasta dish or salad or whatever, just take a spoonful and put it in. It's got a little bit of olive oil, and away you go.
That is a great cooking tip. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
I'm going buying some basil today to do that.
Right? It's so handy to have. And the last thing I'm going to talk to you about in terms of cooking is you wanted to talk a little bit about stainless steel pans. And I can't demonstrate because I don't have I have a stainless steel pot, but it doesn't
Okay.
seem to work in the induction burner. But the trick with
Mhm.
stainless steel pans, there's two ways to cook with a stainless steel pan so that it doesn't stick. The first way
Okay.
is with a lot of oil, and that's obvious, right? Remember that unless you have a really, really good quality, fresh olive oil, the smoke point is higher. So you're not
Yeah.
going to probably want to use that for frying an egg or something. But if you want to fry an egg, you're going to have to use a lot of oil in a stainless steel pan. But if you're doing something like you want to make a pepper steak and you've got a beautiful beef fillet, you want to salt and pepper it on both sides, put a little bit of oil in the pan. But the trick with that is that you're going to put it in the pan and you're going to let it start to brown and cook without touching it. And when you have your tongs, I don't know where my tongs are, but if you have your tongs and you get the
Mhm.
steak and you try to lift it and it won't lift, that means it's not ready to flip yet. And that's
Okay.
really
Huh?
important to remember, is that when it's ready to flip, when it's browned sufficiently, you'll be able to lift it up and flip it over. So if you try and
Okay.
rush that in a stainless steel pan, you're going to get it sort of sticking a little bit. But
Okay.
remember, the beauty of a stainless steel pan is that the sugars that will come out of the meat as you're browning it, or the salmon, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
they're in at school in France, they call it the sucs, SUCS, and that just means the sugars. So the sugars will brown, caramelize, and you really want that to help your sauce, like if you're
Mm,
making
mm.
stew or a pepper steak or something like that. So
Yeah.
by letting it, and you don't want to have a temperature too high. And I am the most impatient person, and I'm tempted to crank the temperature on high. Medium is great, even medium low. It takes longer, but it helps with the process of the soups on the pan and the
Okay.
release. So if you don't try to flip it too soon, try it. If
Mhm.
if it doesn't lift easily, then it's not ready. Give it a couple more minutes, and you'll find it'll lift quite nicely.
Okay.
And then the third one, I know I said there were two, but I changed my mind. There's three. The third way
Mr.
to
Okay.
not
Bonus.
right? Bonus answer. The third way to not have things stick in a stainless steel pan is to keep them moving. So
Okay.
when I'm cooking, and my stove at home, I've got a ceramic top stove. It says don't move the pan on the stove. I always move the pan on the stove because I'm always moving it. And something that I do a lot, I know right, Tom, so I hung them up. That I do a lot is I keep the pan moving and I've got my tongs going at the same time.
Okay.
So
Okay.
everything's moving in the pan, and that helps to keep it from sticking too. So
Okay.
the three options are use a lot of oil, and there's
Mhm.
no seasoning stainless steel, right? So, and
Yeah. Yeah.
with a non-stick pan, you won't get the soups the same way. This non-stick pan are great for eggs and
Yeah.
sauteing vegetables and things, but for something that you want the browning, the Teflon, the non-stick pan's not nearly as good. So either use a lot of oil,
Mhm.
let it rest or let it cook until it releases itself, and then you flip it over. Same goes for a barbecue, by the way. If you have to pull it up, then it's not ready to flip. And the third
Okay.
option is to just keep it moving while you're doing it.
Okay.
So try
Love
those
that.
techniques for your stainless steel, and you should find they work swimmingly.
Mm.
So,
Thank you.
well, you're
Mm.
more than welcome. So I think we've covered. Did we cover enough for you? Did you get some valuable tips there?
I I did. If you have time, and if not, that's okay too, because it's something I thought of while we were doing this today. I have knives. I get them sharpened,
Mhm.
regularly, but I have been reluctant to use this bad boy here, the honing thing, because I don't know what I'm doing with it. Do you have, can you quickly give me, two bits of technique for the honing?
I can, and I don't have a steel, but I'll tell you, I can use something. I can use another knife. So the important thing to know is that the steel, that
Hmm.
thing, is to
Hmm.
maintain a blade. It's not to sharpen it.
Right. Okay.
So if
Okay.
you have a dull blade, the steel's not going to
Not
help.
gonna do anything. Yeah.
No. So what you want to do is, if you think about it, and I don't know if we can get the angles here, but if you have it like that, it's not really going to do anything. If you have it like that, can you see the angles I'm showing?
Yeah.
It's going to make your blade dull. So what you want to do is you want to have it at about a 45-degree angle to your steel.
Okay.
And you start at the top at the 45-degree angle, and it's like an arc.
Oh, like an huh.
As long as you don't have it like that, you're not going to hurt your knife. If you don't have enough of an angle, you're not going to help your knife. That's the only difference.
Okay.
But so you start with your at the tip of the blade, and see, you're doing it like that. So
Yeah.
you might put it up at the top, but
Okay.
start with the heel of the knife, and it's going to be an arc as you run it across the
Okay.
steel. And as long as you're using it at like the 75 or 45-degree angle, you're not going to hurt your knife, and you do want to apply a little bit of pressure. And so you may appreciate the sort of logical sense of that. If you think about a blade like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to, the blade's not like this, so going straight across there doesn't do anything. So what you're doing is you're trying to sharpen it from one side to the other, right? From here to there, from here to the point, so that the point stays pointy instead of it gets sort of dull. So you want to sort of shave off, you're not really shaving off, but you want to sort of make it go towards the 45-degree angle towards the front of the knife so that you're getting the blade there. I probably described that terribly, but that's the trick, is just to start at the heel, make it like a circle as you move it along. So you're moving it up and out like an arc.
Okay. Interesting. And let's say I'm doing this with a decent enough technique. How often, like in a session, what do you, 10 on each side, or just have to guess whenever you feel the job is done? What?
We do probably 5 to 10 on each side, give the blade a feel and see if it feels any sharper. And if it doesn't, give it a couple more swipes.
More. Okay.
Yep. And again, we're talking practice and going slowly. I would recommend that you try doing it holding the steel up. You might find it a little more comfortable, although it might make you nervous because it's dangerous, but it's not dangerous if you're not flying through it, right?
Okay. All right.
So when you've got your steel, you don't have to go fast. There's no speed necessary. So if you're taking your time and going across like that and you're coming towards yourself, as long as you're being careful, you're going to be safe. You're not going to hurt yourself. But the steel is a great tool to use, and it is for maintaining, not for sharpening. So if you use that, if you get your knife sharpened, and then you get your knife sharpened, and then you use the steel on a regular basis, your knives will stay sharp for so much longer.
Okay. Thanks for that too.
You're very welcome.
Up in my game. Up in my game here.
I love that. All right. Well, I think that concludes. We probably went over time, but it was fun talking to you, so I don't mind at all, if you don't mind.
Oh, good. No, I enjoyed this very much. Absolutely. It was good fun. And again, whenever I learn something, it's a good day. If I learn something new.
It's always great to learn something new. So you can apply these techniques to make something fabulous for Barbara, which I know you do all the time, because you said you're the main cooker in the house, or chef. So you can dazzle her with your new prowess with your knives.
I'm gonna put it to some good use in tonight's dinner for sure. Oh
awesome.
Yeah, I've got the onion already.
Right?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Can I give a little plug for my podcast?
Absolutely, because I'm going to give a plug for mine when you're finished.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah. No, for to hear more of my family stories of Italian food and meet interesting people in the New York metropolitan area, you can listen to I Wish I Were a Prosciutto. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Podcasts, wherever, any major streaming platform for podcasts. And there's a little logo of me and my co-host.
I
Uh,
love it.
wishing we were prosciutti. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. And I can't wait to listen to some of them too, Martin, because it sounds like you've got so much interesting and relatable and food and culture content. And I just love hearing all of that stuff. So it just
Oh,
makes me a
great.
happy place.
Thanks.
So,
Thank you. It is. Okay.
and for anybody who's watching this who wants to take their cooking to the next level with their partner, because there's no better way to connect with your partner than in the
Mm.
kitchen through the love language of food, then by all means, I would love to have you sign up for Chef's Kiss, which is my culinary date night adventures. It's a
Oh, wow.
program where every month a package gets delivered to your inbox and it's got all the necessary um, information that you need to create a romantic date night at home. There's shopping lists, there's technique videos, there's food facts, history, trivia, whatnot. There's also some conversation points to get the conversation rolling while you're cooking. And of course, the main event, which is the video of the cooking class, which I will take you through different dishes each month, step by step, and show you exactly how you can create an amazing meal at home with your partner and have lots of fun doing it. So I look forward to seeing a lot of you there. If you want to check out the
For
website,
sure.
it's krista-marie.com/chef's kiss, all one word. So
Okay. I'll
that's
be sure to
us for
look that up
today.
too. Yeah.
Why, thank you.
Wow.
And
I'm going to
we'll stay in
report back
touch.
to you and let you. I was going to say, I'll stay in touch with how my technique is going. Basically, how the next crisis that we come up, how I handle it. I'll let you know if I was,
Definitely.
if I was a supporting person or a neurotic person. But I will let you know. I'm going to try to employ your sage counsel, and I'll let you know how that works out.
I'm confident you will be amazing.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Martin. It was great. We'll be in touch. Take care and have a great
Alrighty.
evening. All right. Take care.
Thank you too. Bye
Bye bye.
bye. Okay.